I can already invite our speakers up here to take place beside me. She's Laura Chin from FAO. Then we have Jessica. Are you ready to come? Oh, Jessica, sorry. Felipe from Brazil. And lastly, Elizabeth. Please come. You can take a seat there. So, welcome everyone, and thank you all for coming. We are trying to make a discussion forum that shows you how to combine our efforts to reach the 2030 agenda. And we know that it's not always easy to take a holistic approach and to integrate all the goals into a project. And to show that, we want to experience it ourselves by later having a shortly interactive session where you all get assigned some goals that you need to integrate in your group project. And we know all that sometimes there are projects out there that we look at them and we just think, wow, they just touch on everything we know, and they are combining everything, and they make a great impact on the people and on the environment. And we try to make you think to take a step back on projects that you have been involved, that you might be involved, or that you're even going to design. And just to think, is it as holistic and as inclusive as it can be and as it should be? And for this also we have invited youth speakers that have broad experience already in working holistically and practically on the ground with their own projects or with their own research. But first up, I want to invite Laura Chin, the Food Security Officer from FAO, who has worked in several areas and has gotten a broad experience in cross-sectoral collaboration and in connecting landscapes and getting so increasing the social economic benefit of landscapes. To give us a short introduction on her views. Do you want to take a stand?
Okay. So, good evening. I've never been surrounded by this many young people, so I feel very overwhelmed, and this is nice energy. At the beginning, I was wondering, is there an age criteria to enter this room? And I asked a couple of colleagues, and the answer was no. So I guess we're all just enthusiastic people interested in this very topic. So it is really my pleasure to be here to deliver opening remarks at this session. Organized by the Youth in Landscape Initiative. And thank you very much for this invitation. And I'm really very happy to talk about the needs for combined efforts required to achieve the 2030 agenda and beyond. Actually, as many of you may know, this year, FAO's report on the state of the food security and nutrition estimates that about 821 million people go hungry every day. And we've heard this numerous times. By 2050, global population is expected to rise beyond 9 billion, and we need to produce more food, at least by 50% more. And meeting the world's increasing demand for food and other land-based products will require highly productive landscapes, and which need to be managed sustainably. And I think this is the very reason why we're all here. And forests and trees contribute directly and indirectly to food security and nutrition in numerous ways. We've discussed many different ways how forests contribute to food and nutrition by addressing the actual food items. But more than that, actually, did you know that 2.4 billion people worldwide use wood fuel for cooking and sterilizing water? And this is also a very important dimension to be food secure and nutrition secure. And obviously, forests generate income, providing at least $730 billion industry to at least 80 million people all over the world. Now, needless to say, essential ecosystem services that forests provide are extremely important for sustainable agriculture. And the world's freshwater, most of them come from forested watersheds and wetlands, and they supply at least 75% of the domestic, agricultural, industrial, and ecological needs. And did you know that when managed sustainably, forests can also absorb about 10% of the global carbon emissions and mitigating climate change and its impact on food production. But again, we've heard this many times, agriculture remains the most significant driver of global deforestation. 80% of the current global net forest loss of 3.3 million hectares per year is due to agriculture. Of course, there are many other factors, infrastructure, mining, and from climate change to urbanization to a lack of investment. They will all make it very challenging for us to produce enough food. Now, coming back to forestry, there is an urgent need to promote more positive interactions between agriculture and forestry. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals agreed by countries in 2015 are integrated and indivisible. Progress towards sustainable agriculture, food security, and sustainable forest management, and core elements of all the SDGs should be made simultaneously. Now, what can we do? There are many ways. Some countries have proven that this was possible, that agriculture and forestry can go hand in hand. Some of the key success factors highlighted the following. Improved coordination is required between policies on forest, agriculture, food, land use, and rural development. Equally important are clear legal frameworks governing land use change, including secure land tenure systems, which recognize traditional and customary rights to use land and forest products. Where large-scale commercial agriculture is the principal driver of land use change, effective regulation of change with appropriate social and environmental safeguards is also required. Private governance initiatives, such as voluntary certification schemes, can also provide very positive impact. Where local subsistence agriculture is the principal driver of land use change, wider poverty alleviation and rural development measures should also be implemented alongside actions to improve local agricultural agroforestry and other land use practices. Integrated land use planning provides a strategic framework for balancing land use at national, subnational, and landscape scales. This should include meaningful stakeholder participation to ensure the legitimacy of land use plans and obtain stakeholder buy-in for their implementation and monitoring. Food security can be achieved through agriculture intensification in some cases, other measures such as social protection rather than through expansion of agricultural areas at the expense of forests. Now, colleagues, some actions have been taken, but I believe that far more can be done and need to be done. And particularly recognizing the importance of working together, last year, in October 2017, at the 44th session of the Committee on World Food Security, the 193 member countries of this committee, as well as other members, civil society and private sector, agreed to endorse policy recommendations, recognizing the important role of forestry for food security and nutrition. Can I just tell you that this has never ever happened in the history of Committee on Food Security worldwide since its existence in 1945. And this means something. This topic is no longer addressed only by the people in the forestry sector. So I'd like to say that was an achievement. Now, taking this kind of results, we've made a further progress this year during the Committee on Forestry, where the very policy recommendations made by the people from the food security sector was forwarded to the heads of the delegates in each country dealing with forestry issues. Now, they also agreed that they needed to work together. This was later on further forwarded to Committee on Agriculture, where we also had a nice side event together with Max here. I think he will remember. And one of the key elements that everybody echoed at the event was actually the innovation. And innovation and technology require everybody's ideas and actions together. And as you know, the world is youthful than ever. It is estimated that there is about 1.8 billion young people out there. And about 90% of them are living in developing countries, and 1/5 of them have no employment, training opportunities, nor capacity to reach their full potential. Now, the youth is the future and can be the source of innovation, creativity, especially in this very complex and rapidly changing world. And this is not a coincidence. The role of education and training is key. The future of forest and food security concerns all of you, like all of you in this room, and the well-being of every individual on this planet. And the youth has a very, very important role to play for the future. Honestly, only when all our joint efforts are coupled with our coordinated actions, our future generations will be able to fully appreciate the importance of forests, and not only for food security and nutrition, but far beyond for every other benefits that forests provide. I don't know if you know Paulo Coelho. I can be melodramatic. I guess I really like him. And one of the quotes, that he uses is that when you really want something, the whole universe will conspire you to help achieve that. Yes, it may sound corny, but honestly, this happened to me so many times in my own life that I stand by this. So let's ask ourselves, do we really want this? Do we really want this? You can keep this answer to yourselves. So with this question and the answers in our mind, I look forward to and wish you the most innovative, fruitful, and most importantly, a fun session. So thank you and enjoy.
Thank you very much, Laura. And with this insight on the policy and breaking down to projects on the ground and implementation, I would like to introduce Jessica Vega Ortega. She's from the Mexito people, the indigenous people from Oaxaca in Mexico, and she is the coordinator of the Yani Tunayi Dikuntini Collective. It's a difficult name. And she's a defender of individual and collective rights, especially for the youth, and she will report a bit from her work.
I'm sorry, it stayed really small. Duba di Quindo, ta'i. I am standing one greetings from my tongue language. Hello, brothers and sisters. I am Jessica. I am part from the indigenous community in Mexico. I am coordinator for one collective for indigenous youth. This collective is a part for the one group organization, Ciarena. Ciarena working with the research and the empower younger and the children. But even is a part from the one network in Latin America and the Caribbean. This network even is apart from the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus. And the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus is part from the indigenous people major group. Stay here present. I can tell you this because to get the voice of the indigenous peoples or they have one project, we had to articulate many younger people. Well, I will try for explaining. This process have opportunity for start in April and 2017 the FAO have one meet one FAO. Different leaders, indigenous youth, they former part of the Global Indigenous Youth, had convinced at one meeting when one resulted in the Rome state. Their contribution and indigenous youth to weather a world without working for the 2 SDG, the Zero Hunger. This statement called them to the member states and the UN national agencies for create programs for the capacity building and the human rights for the indigenous youth, in particular for empower indigenous youth. And which was presented this statement in the Permanent Forum for Indigenous Youth. The FAO take this recommendation and creating and building one program for indigenous youth. This program is for give the skill and the opportunity the youth people for the take the one training and they have one internship program, especially for youth indigenous. This is important for the youth because have this opportunity in FAO. Thank you are the all indigenous and the leader indigenous because they calling for have opportunities. Recently have one workshop in FAO and even try for get more ideas for making more strong this program because maybe have the opportunity on building this opportunity, but I needed more space in other agencies for really not be had anyone, I'm sorry, but because my English is not good. This is the other problem for Latin America. But it's necessary and powerful for take this space. And then in this space, I wanna give thank you to all the youth for making me take the boss here. But even in the region, Latin America is still working for implementing other activities. Recently, have one diplomat, like the one training for indigenous youth in Latin America, and they explain and learning about the SDGs. The indigenous youth not have a lot of opportunities for take the bus in this space. And then this program is important in Latin America because have opportunity for capacity building or to contribute towards achieving sustainable and development goals. For example, zero hunger, equal gender, and even have more articulation with other organizations from local levels. Now, I am working for implementing other activities in my region. The network in Latin America on December 10, we have one webinar, and they're calling for invite other youth in the region for attending this meeting. Sometimes it's really difficult meet when all the youngers in space because the more difficult issues is the money. No have resources for implementing these activities. And then it's necessary to take different strategies, and the technology in this time is really important for the young. Sometimes it's really difficult, even in the community level, take access for the Facebook or for the internet. But I try for the give opportunities and the articulation with other organizations like you, for example, is really important for extending the voice and keep working for the land, for the defender, the lands, and the Mother Earth. Thank you, everything younger for stay here, and the old organization for inviting me. And I give it a special thank you to the Indigenous People Major Group, because they empowerful are the Global Indigenous Youth Caucus for be part and the different activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. With mentioning these important keywords of empowerment of education and capacity building. I want to introduce our next speaker, Elizabeth Petrucci. She's not only the winner of our online challenge of becoming a landscape leader, but she's also leading the Green Generation Initiative and taking action herself and empowering young people.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to be in this place today to speak about my initiative. So, I grew up in one of the most forested counties in Kenya. And it was real connection with nature because there was this river that was flowing close to my farmland. And I could really connect when I was still a child. And it was something that was so great to me, like connecting directly to nature. So it's something that made me feel that maybe the world looks the same on the other side because I was still a young girl by then. So one of these times I went out of my county. It was just on a school trip when I was a young girl. And I realized that it's not the same on the other side, that on the other side, people were destroying the environment, people were cutting down trees. The rivers on the other side were not as clean as the river that was back in my village. So it kept me thinking that what is happening on this other side? So the late Professor Wangari Maathai was my biggest inspiration by then. And she actually came from the same village where I come from. And I watched her footsteps, and I really admired what she was doing in terms of conservation. And I realized that I needed to make a change. And I imagined I was only young, and I wanted to make a change and address the environmental challenges that we were facing at that time. So what happened, I went back to my school, and I planted my first tree when I was in class 7. That was around, I was only 10 years old. So when I was planting this tree, there was this, again, great connection with the environment, and I felt that what if we had a lot of young people out there who are able to connect with nature at a young age and also be able to go out there and also make a change and make a change and also ensure that the environmental challenges that we are facing today are not going to be experienced. So I started Green Generation Initiative, and which is a movement that ensures that young children in schools are nurtured. And what I do is environmental education and also adopt a tree campaign, whereby I ensure that each child plants and adopts a tree in the school compound, and they nurture that tree until they grow. Because I realize that we do a lot of planting trees, but then maybe you cannot show me the shade of the tree that you planted. So that is why this idea of growing trees came in, and I realized that we need to actually grow trees and nurture them and ensure that they grow. So I address 3 SDGs in my initiative. One of them is zero hunger, then there is climate action, and also quality education. So for the zero hunger, I ensure that the types of trees I plant are the fruit trees in the schools, and that means that we address the climate action aspect, and also ensure that the trees that we plant actually address also the issue of hunger in the schools, because the same trees are used to enhance, or rather to facilitate, the school feeding programs in the country. Because most of the places in the country, you find there's the issue of hunger, and the weather sometimes is not really good, and the young children have to also feed in the school compounds. So that is why I started this initiative, and at the moment I work with 25 schools, and most of them are the primary school kids and the high school kids. So the approach could be a bit different, because for the primary school kids, they are a bit young, so the approach becomes different because you have to play with the young children, you have to do some artworks with them so that they get to connect with nature at their age. And then there's the age of the secondary school children. Again, you have to connect with them at their level. So during my initiative, I also got the Wangari Maathai Scholarship Award in 2016. That is an award that also recognizes young women who are doing environmental projects and trying to also work with communities. So I started a tree nursery, and that is where I get the tree seedlings that I donate to schools. So this nursery was in such a way that when you start your own tree nursery, it's not very expensive as buying seedlings from the market and going to plant out there. So that is why I decided, why not begin a tree nursery just in my backyard, and also and use those trees that are from the nursery to go and donate to the school so that they can be able to benefit from them. So the initiative at the moment has been able to plant over 20,000 tree seedlings in different schools, and the survival rate for the trees, I would say, is 98%. 100%, because with the Adopt a Tree campaign, it means that every child is able to nurture that tree until it grows. Because in our country, we are trying to get to 10% forest cover, and that is why at the moment I'm also in the forefront to try and also ensure that the gap between deforestation and where we want to be by in the next 10 years gets bridged. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. What a passionate speech. So that just shows how policy of connecting forests and food security is implemented on the ground. And next up, I would like to invite Felipe, who is really passionate about the concept of regeneration and who was also a winner of our online contest of becoming a landscape leader. And he is working and researching in that field since 2016. And he's really committed to regenerative design and working with regenerative agriculture. And he will introduce us to some of the ideas to that.
Hello. Sorry, first time I'm going to speak like this, so be patient. And I'm really humbled to speak after them because they are really doing and moving people. I'm going to present a little bit more conceptual idea and of something that I'm seeing and doing on the ground. I've been in lands and I'm working with the farmers. And now I'm starting to bring this concept of regeneration to Brazil. That is something that is a little bit foreigner. So I'm gonna talk of a regenerative approach to climate change, and to me, I'm happy that we put it together, the tables, because this to me is the beginning of regeneration. Is connecting, is breaking a little bit duality of you and me, of nature and us. So the first idea is, what if the SDGs were byproducts of a holistic approach? What if we don't focus on the SDGs, but we take them as part of what we believe is a good life and a standard that we want to achieve, but we strive to create beauty, not to create less hunger, but to create abundance, not to create less poverty, but create richness. And regeneration has this subtle change, and to me, it changes everything because you are looking to the beauty of it. You are looking to the bright side. So a basic concept of regeneration will be, let's use potential and let's work with wholeness. So we move from solution because there's no problems. We are in a really, really complex system. We were in a living system. And there's like systems within systems within systems, and they work together to create health. And this is a wholeness approach. You are looking, what are all these interactions happening? What is going on here that is driving to more health? I don't imagine anyone that wake up today and say, like, today I'm gonna be unhappy, I'm gonna suffer, and I'm gonna create problem and trouble. We are always looking for health. We are always looking for a better state of health. And when it looks to problems, we are always looking to, oh, there is this, so it's not perfect. There is this, it's not perfect. And we are walking in the path of always breaking down. And when you look to potentiality, you are looking to the hidden meaning, to the things that the universe put it there and say, like, we are here, but we need to come forth. So like a flower that blooms when you put water on it. You are working from within. You never go to a flower and ask, how are you gonna be? Yeah, like the shape gonna be like this. No, you want this. You want the flower to reveal itself. So why don't we want the reality to reveal itself? We are constantly trying to constrain chaos and have control over everything. We suffer within, we suffer without. And someone said that without is not, but without like outside. Because landscapes within, landscape without. And it was just in the youth workshop that I realized there's landscapes within you. Like we live in a world outside and we live in a world inside. We have feelings, we have emotions, we have history. So every landscape have facts, feelings, have traditions. How are we gonna take that in? if we are trying to solve poverty, this is not taking into account what poverty is. Who said that poverty is what we think it is? I've been to villages where they are most happy in having to cook in a fire stove. They just want safety to do this without their house get like burned down. So what is approach that brings, and I love like permaculture in this sense, is a permanent culture. Is a culture of permanence. We are here to stay. The most successful societies there are so far are tribal. Because the others, they perished. All of them perished. And there's landscape without, so how we merge this, how we meet who we are and where we are, how we extend this, how we put ourselves out of love to create and tender the earth that's going to love ourselves back with food, with shelter, with animals, with clean air, with clean water. So to bring this more to the concrete world, I'm gonna bring one thing that I'm really passionate about, and I'm working with this in Brazil now. That is the concept of regenerative agriculture. So I brought this from Terra Genesis, is a company, and I really believe in the approach of bringing together in an entrepreneurial sense as well. I think regeneration fostered this. Let's sow things that give money, that give wealth, that solve the things that we are looking for and bring up this potentiality. So regenerative agriculture is a system of farming principles and practices that increase biodiversity, enriches the soil, improves watersheds, and enhance ecosystem services. So this is exactly what we want, yeah? Like we want to live in paradise, like, picking mangoes, eating carrots. Like we need to serve it so we can be served back. And from all of those, from the regenerative approach, I don't see one that we cannot take. Because we start from what is there, and then you build up. So you go to a place, and then you see, like, okay, what I have here, so I have a degraded land. In what climate am I? What is the topography of the place I am? How the waters run here? What the people here believes? What they want to eat, how they want to treat themselves? What are the relations that have meaning? So if you have meaning to be together, you're going to build a big hall, not small houses. Oh, because we need to solve that everyone have houses, so small houses. But they like a big hall, and they can sleep in the corners. There are people who love it. So I don't see one thing that regeneration cannot tackle with this new mindset. And regenerative agriculture, I have 12 of them listed, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and so on. So I live the message of agroforester from Brazil. He has changed 500 hectares of desert into a beautiful forest who sell one of the most valuable cocoas from the world. He says, humans could reconcile themselves with the planet Earth, finding a way to be useful and welcome in the system. And to conclude, to me, is we need to move from working with nature, because this makes no sense, to work as nature, because that's where we belong. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for these inspiring and also touching insights. And thanks for sharing the philosophy of not only like using the landscape, but living the landscape. And with this inspiration, I want you to tackle a challenge. So we prepared SDGs, or rather sub-targets. So you know that each SDG has several sub-targets. We end up with, I think, 169 of them. And we have picked some of them to be assigned to your group specifically. And those targets should be implemented in a concept of a project you would do if you had these problems that are going to introduce to you by George Dennison, our IFSA counselor of membership and board member, that has prepared a wonderful but also challenging Yieldtopia.
PowerPoint? Perfect. Good evening, everyone. So when we get this up and running. So I hope you're all sufficiently inspired after these 4 landscape leaders. I know that I am. They've got some really inspirational topics and kind of projects that they've been working on. So with this being a Yield workshop, I invite you to Yieldtopia. So the challenge that you'll all be set is quite ambitious, but I hope you tackle it with as much enthusiasm as these 4 have instilled, I believe, in all of us. Perfect. So Yieldtopia is an island off the western coast of Latin America with a really nice flag there. So, being an island, it has a forest, it has beaches, it has a sea. So, it's got a population of roughly 5,000 people. 60%, we're lucky enough, are considered to be youth. It's a tropical climate, so it's hot and humid. The land size is about 10,346 hectares, and the maximum elevation is about 3,561 meters. So a little bit of history to bring you into what you will be tackling. So in the 1800s, there was a big population boom. Agricultural expansion through better technologies led to more medicinal plants and more food. Perfect, bigger population. So in the 1900s, with an increasing population, the agricultural expansion caused landscape deforestation. This, paired with a diffuse pollution source of fertilizers and herbicides, led to sedimentation and pollution. So the marine ecosystems began to collapse a little bit. In the 1950s, due to reduced crop yields, lower fish stocks, and reduced forest cover, the wealth gap has increased. There isn't enough food to feed everyone, so it's a problem. 2000 onwards, the problem continues to grow. The population, you guys, have decided to take action. They reach out to their good connections, and so a project begins. So the main problems, you've got marine ecosystem collapsing, desertification, deforestation, malnutrition and food insecurity, and societal separation. So, you're going to represent the youth population. You have a good understanding of the problem and know that something needs to be done. You'll form a group of around 10 individuals, hopefully from different fields, different regions, so you can work collaboratively to come up with a really good solution. So, you'll be handed in your groups different SDGs, so we want you to focus your innovation around these. So, your output. So you're going to be creating major deliverables, what you can achieve and what you think won't be able to achieve based around your SDGs. How do you influence the key people and how do you motivate all of the stakeholders on the island? When is your deadline? So when do you want this project to start? When do you want it to finish? And what might get in the way? So what are going to be your key challenges? So, optimistically, we've given you 30 minutes to create a solution to all of these problems based on your island, and then in your groups, you'll have 5 minutes to present your idea. We want you to be innovative. We want you to take inspiration from the 3 landscape leaders, and good luck. That's a tall order.
For this to happen, I invite you to join. That's also why we choose the table set up this way. I invite you to join in groups of 10, and each group will get SDGs. There are 5 different SDG targets. So each target will be assigned to 2 people that should fight for that SDG, that target to be reflected in your project. That might not always be possible in a complete way. Also, the targets are quite ambitious, but I will trust that you will manage. And then our facilitators will hand out the SDGs. We will hand out a flip chart paper and some pens, and then you can start creating your own project. I also invite our speakers from up here to join the groups and to bring in their expertise. And have fun.
Hello, thank you very much. I understand we just gave you a challenge of coming up with a project with the respective SDGs that were allocated to your groups, and a holistic project that addresses the need for fulfillment of all the SDGs. If it's not a challenge, it's not worth it. Yeah, I know it has been challenging and you all know the feeling. So we already have one group here and we're going to ask them to elaborate to us the link between the SDGs and the project that they have developed. Thank you very much. Group 1, good to go.
All right, so we had 30 minutes to elaborate our great project, and I suppose we had a really knowledgeable group that put together a great project in such a short time. So we'll quickly, take you through it. What we started with was just like sharing what the different SDGs meant to us, and that was actually fairly powerful because in the end we saw that they're they're all connected as they should be, and so we started to line up a process on how we're going to go about it. So we'll first start with education on community management that will then help us to get into a microfinance scheme. Don't ask us where the funds are coming from at this stage. But we'll go into a microfinance scheme, and from there, for women, and from there, we're going to build nurseries, and through the nurseries, we're going into the establishing of agroforestry systems on Yieldtopia, which are going to be by 2040 with 80% of native species and at least 50% of the whole agricultural land on Yieldtopia. And with the agroforestry systems in place, we'll limit runoff from the agricultural places into the water systems of Yieldtopia, which will help us achieve most of the SDGs that we had to cover. And once these systems are in place, we're going to have educational activities around them, like a kinder kitchen garden, through which we can help youth and introduce them into the agricultural practices that we're using now. And then we go into exchange platforms, because it's really important to also share this knowledge with other people.
And cooperate together.
Thank you so much, Group 1. I just like the way it all ended up in the kitchen. No one eats SDGs. We don't eat SDGs, so we have to explore ways of how we can have these SDGs reach our kitchen. Thank you. I just want to emphasize one thing to the rest of the group. You have 2 minutes to present as a group. Can you please present us your ideas? Thank you.
Okay, so I make this quick. So basically what you're representing, 3,000 meters of altitude and 10,000 hectares, you're basically talking about a volcano. So what we're thinking is doing an agroforestry system with terraces, but in the first side and on the last, in the middle, because on the upper side we'll expect a really cold weather, so we're thinking more about reforestation. Therefore, that's the part.
We also thought about how can we finance the whole thing, the old agroforestry terraces that we thought about, and we think that this is a really cool island for research. So we will try to attract some universities so they can invest, and therefore they can also do research on our project. And then we hopefully can get local communities involved. So it's all community driven, and it's a farmer field school, so the kids can go out and maybe identify plants. Hopefully we will find on our magical island some plants that are also taking up heavy metals and nutrients, so that would also help with the ocean problems, which we also would tackle with mangrove reforestation projects. And then we also thought about doing aquaponics that would also generate more food, so we could tackle the malnutrition. And generally just getting more awareness for the ecosystem services in the population, so that will also help with the societal problems.
So sites are open.
Thank you. Thank you, Group 2. I am optimistic, and I believe that we are all picking something from these presentations. it all starts at the end of our comfort zone. It sounds so nice when we are reading it out here, but you can go and ask the 4 people who were seated up here how they had to move beyond their comfort zone and start something that is practical and tangible. Thank you very much, Group 2. You may take your seat. I can already see a PES here, a payment for ecosystem service. Yeah, thank you. I know it has been quite challenging. 30 minutes, 7 SDGs into one holistic project. How did it feel? Yeah, well, commonly we hear that, I will say this again and over again, if we challenge people every day, one day we will lose. If we challenge ourselves every day, we will win every day. This group, the people in this group have challenged themselves to come up with something nice. You can see it. And please present to us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a group, we've actually acknowledged the concept of potentiality without really being aware of it. But we really took the circumstances just like the group before us and came up with a terrace ID. And to keep it short, it's pretty much the same as the group before us, but what we've added to that is also use the same terrace structure that you want to use for your agroforestry to also use that for water catchment. So you can increase your reforestation and your agricultural efforts. And also because it's a tropical area, you will have water available through the entire growing season. And then also use the same terrace system to get and generate hydropower. And that can even work as a payment system because we have a cooperative. And from that cooperative, we all own together this hydropower scheme, and that we can use to invest in our reforestation and solve almost everything, even the marine ecosystem, because we don't suffer from siltation anymore because of our terraces.
It's an integrated solution.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can go back. Yeah, I think it is always very nice to find a link between everything that we bring up forth. And it's so nice to know that this group has brought out a clear link, though it is biased towards the PES. I'm sure there must be a number of accountants in that group who like the financial part of it. Yeah, we're going to... Oh, we have a group here. Perfect. Thank you. Please, take over.
Yeah, it's a nice one. Okay, perfect. We have made a nice drawing of our island. And there you go. So we have all the SDGs that we will tackle in green circles, and in red you can see the keywords of solutions that we present. First of all, we have education, because 60% of our population is youth. We will get lots of taxes from all the people and give free education, because that's the key topic. Because we are living on a huge mountain, we will use terraces as well, as has been presented before. But we also want to talk about clean energy, because we want to tap into the energy that is coming from the mountain by using hydropower. But because we are a coastal ecosystem, we also use wave energy, which is very sustainable and will save our home. And also, we have mangroves on the coastline because the marine ecosystem is collapsing, so we need mangroves to have more fish, so everybody has enough food, so we don't have hunger, and we also have agroforestry. We have lots of things. What else? Anything else to add? Yes, because we live on a mountain. And yes. All right.
Yeah, thank you very much, group. This group, we're going to the one last group now. Thank you, please get on. Who is presenting? Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we had the goals of peace through participation, education, climate action, land, and gender. So we really started from the participation goal, and because we are a group of youth from the community, we decided that we really believed in the power of everyone that we knew to affect change. So our project is quite holistic, and we're going to take basically a sort of youth in landscapes approach by creating a little network of local youth on our island who all have different skills that they can bring to our group. And through that, we're going to basically connect with all the communities eventually in our island. And different people in our youth group will take on different roles. So some people might have a particular strength to train others in, for example, something to do with climate action, like planting fruit trees. Others might have the entrepreneurial skills to take that further and make it into a business idea that will then incentivize other youth to join in. And so that's just one example. But by doing this, we're really hopeful that we can get everyone in our communities, young and old, to really see the power of what we're doing and kind of spread our message that way. Do you want to take over?
Okay, we also believe that we are going to we're going to start obviously in one community, and we are going to talk about land community. We are not talking anymore about this is your land, this is your land, this is your land. Will be the land of the community, and they will look also with the nursery with the seeds in order that they can have a bank, a genetic bank that they can use. And also we target like a lifetime of 5 years, and we are going to start with training, of course, with these people, and then we are going to go into the project develop. So far, this is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may take your seat. So, just before I invite Max to come and wrap up, Maximilian to come and wrap up, I would like to put forth a few things that I feel I should say right now. I liked it when my friend over there mentioned including all the old and the youthful. I like to re-emphasize something that I always like to say. Your youthfulness, with due respect to all our age brackets here, does not lie in our age. It lies in being youth. We are by nature less cautious. We do things because we know that we still have the time to correct it. So, I mean, if we are young and we are so cautious to take action, then we are not youth. Yeah. So if she said, including the elderly as well, I think that's a very nice approach towards addressing our landscape challenges. I also want to put one issue forth with regards to the people that were up here presenting, and to you who just came and presented here. Well, we gave you 30 minutes to come up with a holistic approach towards achieving the SDGs, and you did quite awesome. And I like to mention one thing, that it is not the shoes we wear, but it is the steps we take that get us where we want to be. Thank you very much. Max?
That was already so beautiful that I think that's a nice statement for the end. I just want to also thank Amos again for taking up the topic of connection. There's one statement that's really important for me to make, is that Youth in Landscapes is to connect people across borders, across religion, ethnicity, and age, and even expertise. So we're just about connecting people, as you just connected all the SDGs together to one approach. And I think we learned a lot today. I hope you had a lot of fun. I thank you all for joining. I thank especially our speakers for giving us really nice insights and providing us with a lot of inspiration. And I hope we can take something home. And when we do the next project, or when we are coming back to our work and are involved in a project, maybe we can think back to this session and include something of another approach, an alternative approach. Think of something broader, something more holistic, and then take action. Thank you.